to bring someone to you who is solid. Solid as a rock. My good friend. My buddy. Hard-working. Dedicated. Committed. Long-living. My good friend. Mia. Amor. Motley. Come here. Come. Come.
If you know that we is we, me for you, me for me. If you know that we is we,
this a BLP party. Tell me you come, tell all of them figure back up and run. We want a change and the time soon come for people suffer too long. BLP party. The giant no wake. Tell them the poor people want a break. The gas, the light.
I don't need Peter Ram tonight to tell you how poor people suffering. Because I can tell you tonight. Good night. Good night. Good night. In peace and love, I come to address you tonight. And I come to do so because I am told that this site was sullied last week. Sullied with a level of abuse and vitriol that is not reflective of who we are as a people. I am a little under the weather, but like Barbados, we are going to do what we have to do to make wrong things right and to make people good in this country. And I will therefore speak tonight to you in these terms because it struck me that tomorrow is 1 week that the election would have been called. And it struck me that people want to know a few things. Remember, Bamba had a song, They Want to Know? They want to know? Well, people want to know a few things. And the most important thing that they want to know is, can Barbados work again? Can Barbadians work again? And they want us and the government to answer those questions. They want to know whether we are sufficiently in touch with the people to know that the people are suffering, to know that in every community there are houses where not a single man or woman is working, that in every community there are people who juggle between light and water, that in every community that there are people using kerosene lamps again, that in every community there are some people who used to work in the tourism industry that not working again, or people who used to work in the factories that not working again, or people who used to be taxi drivers who now spend the day waiting for 1 or 2 fares for a whole day. And sometimes they don't even get that. That there are people who are small businesses, own a little small business here, and they are struggling just to buy the goods to sell and nothing left back to keep them together. The people want to know. And I am glad that the Barbados Labour Party is launching its formal campaign against the backdrop of government headquarters, but equally in the shadow of Grantley Adams. Because these next 2.5 weeks will bring to a culmination our conversations with you, our talk with you about what you feel about your country and where it has gone wrong. Why you feel sometimes when you wake up in the morning that you can't cope. Why some people can't sleep at night and the stress killing them. Why young people dropping down dead and we don't know why they're dropping down dead, because they can't take the stress. This is what it is about, you know. Government is only a vehicle that we use to be able to fulfill your ambitions. Government is only a vehicle that we use to create a safe society. Not one that you got to worry now. As I said, if you're walking from here to the gas station, if somebody going to grab your gold chain, and that you're better off now wearing beads because at least you can't melt down the beads. Government is only a vehicle that allows you to be able to know, well, if I'm opening this business, this is what I expect to make, because people got a little money in the pocket and they can come and spend it. And you know the beauty about what we were able to do between 94 and 2008, when people had money in the pockets, is that, as I keep telling you, they're what I call the lifestyle type industries that women could now open a full-time business doing hair. Women could open a full-time business doing nails, doing manicures and pedicures. It wasn't something only for the tourists or the big people. That people could all of a sudden buy a little weed whacker, cut people hedgerows, cut people lawn, because people had a little extra money that they didn't necessarily want to spend the whole Sunday mowing a lawn. So they tell a fella, come and mow this for me and let me get a little $50. Can't do that now. So that people want to know, can Barbados work again? And they came to the first meeting of the campaign on this site in the shadow of Grantley Adams, the father of our democracy, the father of the man, the father who put this country to work for the first time in the name of the people, for the people, by the people. Made sure that the interests of government reflected what was necessary for the people. Not a few here and not a few there. But this Democratic Labour Party government that occupies that building came here and could not talk to you about the things that matter, the things that keep you up at night and during the day. They couldn't tell us, and you would have heard from Noel and others tonight, about why is it that we are earning less in tourism today, that we are earning $550 million less. Some people can't compute them figures at all. More than $500 million less, even though prices gone up by 33%. If we were to be earning the same thing that we were earning in 2007 from tourism, we would today be earning at least $3 billion. And the government is earning last year $1.8 billion and change from tourism. Manufacturing, the people that I just talked about in the factories, you know why they're not working? Because you have a government that has presided over manufacturing, producing almost half what it was producing 5 years ago. Manufacturing has dropped from 9% of GDP to 5%. These are not my figures. These come from the central bank governor, who has appointed himself to be their stout defender with editorial comment and all. They didn't tell you that we are losing business in the international business sector. And you know why that is important? Because when we left government, and listen to me carefully, we were getting $521 million in corporation taxes. In other words, when companies pay the income tax, the government was collecting $521 million. You know how much we collect last year? $298 million. A reduction of almost $200 million. But the majority of the reduction was not only local businesses, but it is the international businesses that come and set up here. And why is that important? We don't see them because they're not necessarily like tourism where you can see the hotels and you see the manifestation of it. But because of that, Owen Arthur and the Barbados Labour Party was able to give you $25,000 tax-free. Because of that, Owen Arthur was able to give you the first $150,000 free of tax in land tax. Because of that, Owen Arthur was able to reduce the amount of money that people paid in a whole set of rates and fees. And then for the poor people earning $15,000 and less, for the first time in this country, the government gave you a check in a reverse tax credit. And now I want you to bear with me, because it is important that you understand these things, because it affects you and you and you and the little children I see about here. If you don't have money coming in from one end, you can't free up the other end, because you still got to pay for education. You still got to pay for hospitals and health care. You still got to pay welfare. You still got to do all the things that government does. Build roads. We decided the road. And the most amazing thing is that I wanted to bring a big ball in here tonight and show you how we left the economy, and then bring a tennis ball and show you how they got it now. That's the truth. But I get so caught up in canvassing and sorting myself and others out that I forget to bring it. But that is what has happened. That they have presided over the militarization, the getting smaller of the Barbados economy. And they had the tenacity, the audacity to come here last week on this spot, opposite where you put them to work, in the shadow of the father of democracy, and all they could do is curse people from larboard to starboard. I say to you tonight, my name is not Chris Rock, and perhaps some of them should remember that. You didn't ask them to be Trevor Eastman. You asked them to tell you how you're going to pay your bills. And the people want to know. They want to know when Barbados will work again. Can Barbados work again? And we are here tonight. I got to watch this timer. We are here tonight because I want to tell you that Barbados can work. I ain't spending all my time on them in the past. That's a Mujan who would do that. I want to tell you tonight that Barbados can work. I want to tell you that we have done it before. But the fundamental problem that Barbados has is a lack of leadership. There is an insensitive leadership. There is an ill-focused leadership. There is an absence of leadership. And there is, as you know from the sleeping giant, an unresponsive and silent leadership. And in the meantime, the people who have to make decisions, do I spend money to refurbish my hotel so I can continue to get tourists in here and keep people employed? They're not making it. Do I spend money to build this building for my offices so that some construction people can get work? They're not making those decisions. And Lord, help you if you have to rely on the government for a decision to get anything done, because it does not happen. They will tell you about all kinds of things. They will rush and go to Ford's Road and put 16 keys in people's hands because an election is about to be called. But don't tell you that they take back the 16 keys the same afternoon, carry them back down to National Housing, and by the Tuesday after the Friday, the same day that elections were called, courts was taking back out the furniture out of the houses. They will not tell you that it was a political fraud, a political charade, because they believe that because they have mouths to speak and you have ears to listen, that you will believe anything. But what they need to understand is that the people want to know about real work. The people want to know about the country coming back up. And you know the funny thing is, when Barbados is not doing well, the rest of the region don't do well neither, you know. It's like West Indies cricket. When Barbados cricket ain't doing well, sorry to say West Indies cricket don't really stand up there. And I can say so in the shadow of the Bayland, where the greatest cricketer of the world has ever seen was born. So that the fundamental point is, you have one question and one question in this election. Can Frondell Stewart and the Democratic Labour Party put Barbados back to work again? And as you ponder on that question, you have to ask yourself, but does Frondell really know what's going on in Barbados? Because you don't see him in the supermarket. You don't see him walking down Broad Street. You never did. You don't see him watching cricket on a Saturday or watching football on a Sunday evening. You never did. And what I can say, from Errol Barrow back to Tom Adams, even Erskine Sandiford, and especially Owen Arthur, Brees and John and Oystons all the time, you saw those men moving around the people. They understood how the people felt. They had people talking to them about day-to-day and ordinary problems. But the Prime Minister believes that you can lay a vision out and manage a country moving from an office to a study and reflecting on what Didi Garner and Winter Crawford would do if they were alive. But Winter Crawford and Didi Garner could never understand the Barbados of 2013. Great men as they were. The Barbados of 2013 is a different Barbados from the 1950s and the 1940s. So we are caught in a historical trap by a man who wants to live in the past, wants to carry us back into the past, wants to carry us into a historical warp. And the rest of Barbados wants to move forward. People want to know again that they can make decisions about their life without having to worry and pull out the hair. That they can go and get a drink if they want. That they can get the hair cut if they want. But the only way that can happen is if you do a few things. You need to put money back into people's pockets. And we are committed to doing that. And in the next few weeks, you will hear from the light bills, back to the food prices, back to everything else, how the Barbados Labour Party will make a difference in your life in this country again. In the tourism sector, we are going to put tourism back to work so that you will not have us being embarrassed that while the rest of the region is growing in the tourism sector, as Noel told you, Barbados is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. People at home who are accustomed working 5 days a week for years, some not working at all, some 2 and 3 days a week. We will tell you that we will not preside over a decline. You can imagine Bajans eating less chicken today than they eat 5 years ago. Barbados that sell the most chicken when KFC open in the world. Of any branch of KFC sell the most. And you could believe that chicken production, Bajans eating less chicken today than they were eating 5 years ago. Less fish, less pork. You know why? Because they can't afford to buy it when the week comes. So that in the meantime, those farmers are earning less money and are not having the number of people working with them than before. And finally, can you believe that in almost every area of construction, you know, government is one of the biggest contributors to construction in this country through its Capital Works program. How much money we spend building buildings in order to create an opportunity for earning in the future. So it doesn't matter if you borrow to build a building that can earn for you in the future, then you are able to pay back for the building. No different from your house if you're working. If you're working, you get a mortgage, you know that over the next 15, 20 years, what you bring in will pay back and you will own it. Can you believe that in 2013, in the last year, this government's capital program was less than $100 million at $93 million. We left it at almost $250 million. And now you understand why carpenters and masons and laborers cannot get work in this country. But yet, they will spend money on Alexandra. And they will borrow money for other things that are not important. And that is what I mean by ill-focused leadership. Insensitive leadership. Because at the same time, they have carried the debt from $4.5 billion to $7.2 billion. And you need to ask, what is this almost 50% increase in debt? $2.7 billion. And you got a capital works program at $91 million? The people want to know. The people want to know. The people do not want to know about all of the solicitous and nastiness that came out of races last night. And Anthony Wood, you can get some money for Adriel Braffett got some money for you. So cool and settle. Cool and settle. They might even got some for Owen too. You understand? The people want to know. And we are here tonight to answer what the people want to know. That the Barbados Labour Party will put Barbados to work again. And that Owen Arthur, let me get a little more time. We lost. And as I said, Owen Arthur will help restore it. Because look at it. Their one claim to you, all right, is that if they put money in people's pockets, you're going to run down the foreign exchange. This is not 1991 where you had less than a week's foreign exchange to buy goods and food from overseas. The governor of the central bank tells you that you got 18 weeks, that you got $500 million more than you need. So that means that you can give back the people the entertainment and travel allowances. That means that you can do other little creative things, like with the VAT on food. Because once you do those things, money will go back into people's pockets. And believe you me, Barbados will work for you, for your children, for your family, and for your communities. And I ask you tonight, don't take it for granted. The 30 of us running cannot do it alone. Owen Arthur, as strong a leader as he is, cannot do it alone. We need each and every one of you to go out and to persuade your neighbors. Tell your neighbors labor needs labor. Tell your friends labor needs them. Tell your work colleagues labor needs them. And that we are going to usher into Barbados on the 22nd of February. Just as Owen Arthur is coming down Bay Street, we are going to usher into Barbados a new Barbados, a new opportunity, and a spirit that is revitalized. I want you, ladies and gentlemen, tonight to stand and show me that you are on this train with us. Stand and show me that you are on this train with us. That you will join us in taking Barbados back to work. Giving Barbadians a sense of dignity. Putting leadership back in our country again, where it belongs. And that this journey started here in the shadow of Grantley Adams. And that you will make sure that the mistake that was made on the last occasion will not be repeated. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to stand and join us. We are bringing on to this country a train that will move from here to St. Lucie, St. Lucie to St. Philip, St. Philip to Christchurch, Christchurch to St. James, St. James to St. Joseph. We are going to make Barbados work in every nook and cranny. We will make you our business every day and night. Let us join, ladies and gentlemen, the next Prime Minister of Barbados, our leader, Owen Seymour Arthur.
They're raising everything, and people is working. We suffering. We got to do something. But you could guarantee when Owen win for we, Owen will see to it that money in we pocket. So where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Owen come in, get ready. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? For Barbados Labour Party. Where you at? Look where you at. Yeah, where you at? Owen come in, get ready. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? For Barbados Labour Party.
Going to the polls and voting the bees. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Voting the bees, yeah. Going to the polls and
A wonderful good evening to you. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming to support the platform of the Barbados Labour Party. And I want to thank you in advance for going on Deliverance Day, 21st of February, and returning a good party to give you a good government. Tonight, the Barbados Labour Party launches officially its political campaign. And tonight I want, as my first utterance on this political campaign, to bring you a message of hope and a message of reassurance. I want to go back to the first statement I ever made in public as a Prime Minister. Francis Stewart has made you wait. He has made you wait for more than 5 years, while they have already taken their second term, so they don't need a second term again. He has made 35,000 people actually go wait, while he has done nothing. And he has made the boys and the girls and the fathers and the mothers of the children at Alexander School, he has made them wait too. And he has made you wait to exercise your right to vote in this country. But tonight I say to you, you don't have to wait on Francis Stewart anymore. And there's a higher force, a force higher than Owen Arthur, than Francis Stewart, to whom I looked for guidance in 1994, and to whom I look again. Isaiah 40, he giveth power to the faint, and to them that hath no might, he increaseth strength. Even the youth shall be weary, and the young men shall fail, says Isaiah. But they who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. As in 1994, I bring that message to you again. The waiting is over. It is now time for Barbados once again to rise up with wings as eagles and to show that we can make this a great country once again. This is the start of a campaign. And in our democracy, there must be an accounting. It is not enough, Frandel Stewart, to go around Barbados and to use the opportunity of a political campaign for vilification and vitriol. The people of Barbados want to know in this campaign, and we shall tell them what kind of society and what kind of economy the Dems are leaving behind, and I shall deal with that tonight. And what will be the magnitude of the task that will confront the next government. But it is the duty of a political institution in office to come and give an account. And if the Democratic Labour Party shall not give you account in the first week of this campaign, we shall. And we shall tell you that the reason why there should be a change of government in this country is because this is a failed government. This is a broken government. And Barbados deserves better. They are now talking about everything else. And tonight, before I say anything else, I need to speak to the people of the Barbados Labour Party. And I need to speak to Barbadians. These are serious times. Our people are hurting. They are hurting in a way they have never hurted before. So some people are struggling on Sundays to put a decent meal on the table for their families. Barbadians, for the first time, have to borrow to pay a light bill. People have to be running from the people that they owe. I used to go into St. Peter, and I represent a proud constituency. People would offer me things. I know many people in St. Peter too are being reduced to a level of mendicancy that is hurting my heart. These are our people are hurting. And the government must account. And rather than accounting, they are going around cursing me and cursing the Barbados Labour Party. Well, I want to say to all the candidates who shall join me on this platform, this platform is for talking about the people's business. We do not need anybody to tell us about any code of conduct. We know how to behave ourselves. And from these platforms, there shall be no personal vilification. There shall be no personal abuse. You are to come here and take the people of this country into your confidence and tell them what the situation is and tell them how we are going to take charge, how we are going to face it, and how we shall fix it. And you know, Frandel and the Democratic Labour Party, sometimes you have to be careful of what you wish for other people. I went through a last campaign and saw a man who should know better come to the people of Barbados, not to ask them for their vote on the strength of what he was going to do for them. Be careful of what you say. But to hold up a carton of milk, rancid milk, and to beg for a vote that this carton of rancid milk is Owen Arthur and he has reached the expiry date. Well, none of us, David Thompson, know when our expiry date shall be. I know I'm hearing another person walking about saying that I am half dead. Well, frankly, I'm not going to abuse you. But there are two leaders in this campaign. And it is not me who is fainting in public places and have to put a little mint onto my tongue to resurrect me. And I say to you, it does not matter to me what the Democratic Labour Party say about me. I came to public life in 1994. And the Democratic Labour Party were prepared to send Eric Seeley down to Trinidad to have a portrait of being drawn as a Rasta because they lived in Jamaica. And then you've heard about that I am a drunkard. Although I lived long enough to see another person, accompanied by my friend, the old brigand, fall off the back of a truck at the St. Philip Carnival. I heard about that. And I hear about I am a womanizer, that I have a weakness for sweetness, but that's a good thing. But I say to you, it is well with my soul. I know who I am. I am today that which I was yesterday and shall be tomorrow. I am living in the same house. It means I came into public life in this country. One house, no companies. I had a former wife and she bought a house. She borrowed to build it. I'm glad she has it. They can make that an issue too. She is as much deserving to own a house in Barbados as David Thompson's wife. Not apologizing it for anymore. But I want our people on these platforms to observe a code of conduct. Nobody don't have to ask us to sign any code of conduct. We know how to behave. 75 years of serving the people of Barbados have left us in a condition where we know that our business must be the people's business. And I gave you at the start of this campaign that assurance, that from these platforms you will hear a message of reality, but you will also hear a message of hope. And tonight, as I said, be a simple message to you. You must change this government because the Democratic Labour Party has failed Barbados. And that is the most important reason why a government should be changed. You can't reward failure. And I say that they have failed Barbados because the Democratic Labour Party fundamentally have made Barbados the victims of a philosophy that is folly. The Dems will want you to believe that they are not interested in building an economy. They're interested in a society. Now I ask you, but Sparrow One says no money, no love. But I ask you, how on God's earth can they build a society without the wherewithal to pay for the things that a society needs? And you know, I learned long ago in my Jamaican days. Jamaica had a man called Michael Manley. And I have not come tonight to vilify him. But I remember where I was sitting with the other persons from the National Planning Agency in Jamaica. Michael Manley was a great orator. And he was deeply concerned with Jamaica's circumstances. That Jamaica had high levels of illiteracy. There was no universal primary education as we know it. There was no universal secondary education as we know it. Jamaica couldn't pay for students at tertiary education. But Michael Manley got away with this concept of wanting to build a utopian society. That in a budget debate, at the end of the debate, after the estimates were fixed, he said that from this moment and hereinafter, there will be universal free education in Jamaica at the primary level, at the secondary level, and at the tertiary level too. The problem was that he didn't have the money to pay for it. And this notion that you can create a great society but don't have a strong economy is a fallacy and a folly, Frandel, proven over and over again. But what has been happening to our Barbados? And this campaign, we have to discuss these things to let you know the magnitude of the mess that the Democratic Labour Party has left us with that we will need your help to fix. I begin this way. In order to build a good society, the country must be able to produce goods and services more and more every year. You understand that simple point? It is that you, to make your family better off, you must earn more and more and more. Has that been happening to Barbados? Well, let me tell you what the facts are. That every year, the Barbados economy has been getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And for the first time in the history of Barbados administration, a government will go back to the people with the economy smaller than the economy that they inherited. And you don't have to believe me. Believe the central bank. In 2007, under a Barbados Labour Party administration, the value of what Barbados produced was $8,966 million. We left behind an economy producing $8,966 million. Delayed World reported last month that in 2012, the economy produced only $8,722 million, $200 million more than the economy I left behind. Think about it for a minute. That they have left behind a smaller economy and a shrinking economy. And more to the point, if you were to give them, because they already had the second term, the first one ended on the 15th of January. But if you were to give them a third term, the economy at the end of this year, under DLP policies, would be smaller than it was when we left it in 2007. Now that is not all. The economy getting smaller and smaller and smaller. How do you, as an individual, don't bother the little reindeer star, that rain will soon pass. The Barbadians, our economy is not only getting smaller and smaller and smaller, but Barbadians are saving less and less and less. Over the term of this Democratic Labour Party, over $1 billion had to be drawn down from deposits held in the banking system of Barbados for people and companies in this country to be able to make ends meet. And they're investing less as well. $600 million now every year is being invested in this country than it was under the Barbados Labour Party. But tonight they've come to dispel the myth that by some reason best known to the Democratic Labour Party, our country is in some special way the victim of international circumstances beyond our control. And that all the rest of the world is in our situation and better can't be done. And that countries that used to have been, like Barbados, prosperous countries, are themselves now too the victims of international recession. But tonight, I have come to look at that. First of all, how have other small countries that we used to be compared with done, while Barbados has been getting smaller and smaller and smaller every economy, all people saving less and less and less, and the country investing less and less and less. Our economy now is growing at 0.0%, the central bank says. You remember Guyana that we used to laugh at? In 2008, Guyana grew by 2%. 2009, Guyana grew by 3%. 2010, Guyana grew by 4.4%. 2011, Guyana grew by 4.2%. And 2012, this year, when we didn't grow, Guyana grew by 3.9%. So the Guyana that we used to laugh at, every year, this economy has not grown under the Democratic Labour Party. Guyana has grown every year. Mauritius, another small country like Barbados that we used to be compared with, grew by 5.5% in 2008, 3% in 2009, 4.1% in 2010, 4.5% in 2011, and 3.6% this year. Another small country producing sugarcane and dependent on tourism and international business. Costa Rica, 2.7% in 2000. That's not a small country. 2.7% in 2008. They fell in 2009, and then they started to grow. 4.7%, 4.2% in 2011, and this year, 4%. Botswana, another small country, same population as Barbados, facing the same international situation as Barbados. They grew by 3% in 2008. They grew by 7.2% in 2012, 4.6% in 2011, and 3.3% in 2012. Those are other small countries facing the same situation as Barbados, showing Barbados that a small country, properly led, can continue to grow despite the circumstances in the world. But I left Singapore for the last because I wanted to connect it with something that was said in 1986. Singapore grew by 1.7% in 2008. It fell by 1% in 2009. And then it grew by 14.8% in 2010, 4.9% in 2011, and 2.7% last year. And you know, you asked me why I use Singapore, because every time that the Dems speak, they refer to Errol Barra's speech in, remember the speech, the mirror image speech? Errol Barra in that mirror image speech said these words. He said Singapore is the model. He said, you know, the difference between you and them, and listen to this carefully. This is Errol Barra's mirror image speech. He said they are not teaching their people how to read by the road. Mr. Lowe, you heard that? He said they are in the advance of the information age. He said they have got a mirror image of themselves. They have self-respect. They have a desire to move their country forward by their own devices. And I want tonight to take those little two pieces from Errol Barra's mirror image speech. He says, the people of Singapore are not teaching their people, their children, how to read by the road. And if Errol Barra was to come back tonight and say that the only hope that this Democratic Labour Party is offering our young people is the opportunity to go cut down bush by the road, he would have MAGA staggers. This is not his Barbados. And DLP, it is not ours neither. We can do better, man. We are not teaching our children to read by the road. And if that's all the Democratic Party is offering you across Barbados, tell them that is not Errol Brown's vision for you. But then he said that their mirror image of themselves is that they can make it on their own devices. And in this age, that is the fundamental difference between us and the Democratic Labour Party. And it is one of the issues on which this election shall be fought and won by the Barbados Labour Party. Because we believe too that this is a country where people have aspirations. And if you marry opportunity to aspirations and leave them to their own devices, they will get on with the business of improving their circumstances and helping to build and develop their country. And we believe in it. What the Democratic Labour Party has done is that it has robbed you of the means by which you can rescue this country by leaving you to your own devices to do it. They have robbed you by the means. They have taken all of the money out of your pocket by which you too could help carry forward Barbados. And tonight, as we look to the future, and I bring you this message of hope, I tell you, fear not when foolish people tell you that if we put money in your pockets and leave you to your own devices, that can mash up Barbados. That is madness. And I say that because I was there, done that, and know what works. In 1994, I became a prime minister of a country and a minister of finance with the level of taxes on companies at 40%. We dropped them over 14 years to 25%. We raised the level at which you pay taxes from 13,000 to 25,000 and reduced the corporation tax rate from 40 to 33 and then downwards. We found you paying land tax on all of your land. We say take the first 150,000 tax-free and a cap the rest and brought down the rates. I found small businesses paying taxes at 40%. Left them paying taxes at 15%. People paying property transfer tax at 7.5% and left it at 2%. And I know what it was to introduce home allowances to tell you if you fix up your house and you put in storm shelters and so on, take back some money from the tax man. We introduced a thing called a reverse tax credit when we introduced the value-added tax. And tell you that even if you're not paying income tax, I can give you back some of the fat in the form of a reverse tax credit. And the Barbados economy grew for 14 years, not only because of our exports was growing, because we were making them grow too, but because 76% of this economy don't depend upon exports. They depend upon local spending. Buying yams, buying potatoes, getting a haircut. That's local activity. That adds to the value of the economy. But you must have the wherewithal in your pocket to do so. And when Barrow says, leave the people to their own devices, I believe that too. And I believe that you can't run a country where you stifle all of the initiative and the incentive of people to want to contribute to the country, and in contributing to the country, contribute to themselves. And the last 5 years have converted the use of tax incentives to enable people's aspiration to meet opportunity, the one in which there has been financial vandalism through the tax policy of this government that have made the poor poor and have made the working class now a new class of working poor. And don't tell me it cannot be done. I was there and I did it. And what are we talking about? The allowances that the government has taken away from you will cost the Treasury $24 million a year. $24 million in a government that is spending $2.8 billion. It can't break the government. That would generate $100 million in business immediately in Barbados. If it affects the foreign exchange, when I became the Minister of Finance, we had $350 million of foreign exchange reserves. We left with the banks and the central bank $2.8 billion. And those foreign exchange reserves were built up not for us to look at as if they are some holy grail shining on some distance too far away in the distance to matter. We built them up so that they were available to help Barbados if a storming day came and we needed to help ourselves. Our foreign exchange reserves now are $500 million more than we need for safety. And you tell me if I was to give back the allowances to poor people and the middle class, and even that, if that was to reduce the reserve by $50 million, well, it had been to stimulate $100 million in new business in Barbados, but that there is something wrong with that. But I'll go further. At the same time that Chris Sinclair cannot give you back $24 million, he has given cost you less, duty-free, and tax-free concessions to build everything out in St. Thomas. Cost you less. They are allowed to pay no duties and no taxes on everything that they imported into my country. Their employees from abroad can bring everything duty-free, including their cars. They can sell everything duty-free. And they can take the money that they make and put it in their pocket and carry it back to Canada. Now, no other company in Barbados is being allowed to do that, And I say that this has got serious repercussions because what you do to one, you got to do for all. And if that's how you got to bring down the prices, you can't only give it to cost you less, you got to give it to Price Smart and everybody else who's selling in Barbados. Every supermarket, every small shop got to be able to buy the counters duty-free, put the money in the pocket duty-free too. And you have to ask what lies behind that remarkable deal that would require them to let cost you less be a duty-free zone while every other business doing the same thing got to pay tax. But that's not my point tonight. My point tonight is that when you add up everything that they have given cost you less, it is more than the $24 million that they are taking out of the pockets of everybody from whom they take away the entertainment and the travel allowance. And the question that must be asked, Mr. Thunderstruck, as you account to the people, why would you give millions and millions and millions of dollars to cost you less on carb cable and have people out there struggling, can't pay their light bills? And you're taking every yen out of the pocket. You don't have a conscience, man. When we report, let the report card be complete from the start. Every time that the Democratic Labour Party is in office, it is as if they got two sets of policies for you: wage freeze and wage cuts. They did it in 91, 92. And it is unconscionable that there has been no wage settlement in this country in the public service since 2008. While at the same time, people's prices have risen by over 30%. So if your income is frozen and prices rise by 30%, you are about 30% worse off. So Frontal Store is going to hand back to us a country that is with the economy that is not only smaller, it is not only people saving less, it is not only a country where people are investing less, it is a country where you got unfairness now being introduced to this tax system to make people poor and poor and poorer, and the government is failing, and this is the point I want to make tonight. Having established that cost of living was jobs number one, number two, number three, Frontal Store has to come to these platforms and tell you what the Democratic Labour Party record has been. In 1994, I was bold enough to say that if given the levers of office in this country, job number one would be number one, and that we were going to create 30,000 jobs. We create 35,000, and we reduce unemployment to the lowest level in the history of this country. But then you throw us out of office and we invest. But tonight I've come to say to you, we had a record in dealing with wages that must be gone back to. We did not cut people's salaries by 8%, but we gave them back the 8%. We gave you, and I want to say this, I would be ashamed to be a prime minister and a minister of finance and have people living in my country whose wages are frozen while prices are rising by 30%. And that the government of Barbados must accept that people can't be frozen like that. And that as soon as practicable, a Barbados Labour Party government has to negotiate a settlement with people who are in this dangerous situation. It is wrong. It is unconscionable. And that you have to do it in such a way that you can give some tax relief to those in the middle class and give the bigger percentage increase for those at the bottom. And we commit to doing that for you. And this government has failed. It failed bad. But it is also a broken government. And it is a broken government because governments exist to do things. This government now has lost its capacity to make things happen. And I use tonight only the case of what is happening to Clico. Clico, 35,000 of your brothers and sisters, and you might be in the crowd as one, are affected by Clico. And the government has taken 4 years to do nothing. But it is not that it is not doing nothing, it has been doing something. A government is a broken government when it put the interests of one of its citizens ahead of 35,000 of people who are suffering. And in the case of Clico, nothing is being done because this government has decided to shield a pal, and it has done everything necessary not to bring this matter to resolution, because there are serious actions that will have to ensue, that a Labour Party government will make sure ensues, to bring justice to those who are suffering and justice to those who have done wrong. And what is wrong with what is it just at Clico? That this insurance law says that a company has to put assets in a fund so that when your policies fall due and your policies are its liabilities, you can get paid. The law says also that if the money in the fund is not equivalent to its liabilities, the minister don't get involved in it, and shouldn't get involved in it either, that the supervisor of insurance shall immediately apply to the court to put the company under judicial management. I made the first point because I hear a lot of nonsense that I let Clico happen. But believe me, I would have been very, very, very glad if, when I was Minister of Finance, any news would have been brought to my attention that a Leroy Paris company was not following the law. The law would have been followed. I have no brief for Paris. And it also has to be said that all of the decisions that were taken that has brought Clico to this sad and sorry situation were made by a man who was in the presence and with the knowledge of the legal counsel, a man called David Thompson. And that many of the other decisions that were made that have these people that can't get back the money were made when David Thompson was Minister of Finance. And why do I say that? That the law says that if it is discovered, and it was discovered in 2008, that the assets set aside to give you back your money was not enough, you had to apply to the courts, and that it was mandatory. What did David Thompson do? He sought not to let the law take its course, but put a thing called an oversight committee. Because if the law had taken its course, Leroy Paris would have had to move immediately. And then when Leroy Paris was there was instruction given, stop selling insurance policies. And he continued to sell, and the government did absolutely nothing about it. Now, I say that this is a broken government because we have told the government that Barbados cannot grow if 35,000 Barbadians' lives are put in a state of permanent contingency. You got people who don't know if they're getting the money or not. And therefore, they are not spending, they're not investing. The sooner we fix Clico, the sooner we get this country back on track. The people who have been affected by Clico have been affected because the system failed them. And the system must not be allowed to fail them anymore because David Thompson has said he can get back all the money. And when the Prime Minister speaks, it must mean something. Francis Stewart has said he must get back all of the money. And when he speaks, it must mean something. Delight World has said he must get back all of the money. And that must mean something. And Chris Sinclair has said they must get back. Now I speak in terms of a government that is broken because there must always be a bond of trust between those who govern and those who are governed. And if there is not that bond of trust, then the law of the jungle obtains. And when the Prime Minister has spoken, two of my Prime Ministers have spoken, a central bank government has spoken, a Minister of Finance has spoken, you can't take 4 years to leave people in the lurch. It must be dealt with. And I said at Haggett Hall that there is a way we can fix this problem. Through a combination of cash, through a combination of investment instruments, and giving some element of tax relief to those who don't get cash, companies especially. I feel strongly that people who are pensioners and who look for that little money to live off should get the money in cash and get it in right now. I had a friend called Corus Pilgrim, 90 years old. He says, when I'm in the departure lounge waiting the final boarding call. And he died waiting on the government to fix a problem that the government says it will fix. And we must not come to live in the Barbados. We must not accept these things that the government gives its word and then breaks its word to the people. So you are at the start of a campaign. And I'm not going to speak longer than this tonight. I've got a lot to say. And there's a lot that must be said from these platforms. But I bring you a message of hope. We're going to take charge. We are going to give you a good government. Where there are problems, we are going to face it and fix it. But I leave you with the words of that St. Lucian noble poet. Barbados is like a vase that has been broken. And he says, break a vase. And the love that reassembles the fragments is greater than the love which took its symmetry for granted when it was whole. This is the spirit in which I be leader of government. Good night, and God bless each and every one of you.
Going to the polls and voting the bees. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Voting the bees, yeah. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Voting the bees, yeah.
They're raising everything, and people in working. We suffering. We got to do something. But you could guarantee when Owen win for we, Owen will see to it that money in we pocket. So where you red? Where you red? Where you red? Owen come in, get ready. Where you red? Where you red? Where you red? For Barbados Labour Party. Where you red? Look, where you red? Yeah, where you red? Owen come in, get ready. Where you red? Where you red? Where you red? For Barbados Labour Party.
Going to the polls and voting the bees. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Voting the bees, yeah. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Voting the bees, yeah.
They fighting all the time with one another. It is clear to see they don't have a leader. But when we Owen win, we will fix everything. Then we will be happy again in this country. So where you red? Where you red? Where you red? Owen come in, get ready. Where you red? Ah, where you red? Yeah, where you red? For Barbados Labour Party. Where you red? Look, where you red? Yeah, where you red? Owen come in, get ready. Where you red? Where you red? Where you red? For Barbados Labour Party.
Going to the polls and voting the bees. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Voting the bees, yeah. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Voting the bees, yeah. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Voting the bees, yeah. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Voting the bees, yeah. Going to the polls and voting the bees. Going to the polls and
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. How you voting? How you voting? How you voting? We ready. We want to thank you for coming out. It's been a wonderful night. The rescue mission has started. I want you to get home safe and come back tomorrow for those 3 meetings we advertise. Get home safe. Thank you. Good night. And may God continue to bless you all. Bless Owen Arthur and the Barbados Labour Party.
We do not want them, not them again.
Tell me what you want.
Bring the change. Barbados Labour Party.
Tell me what you want.
B.O.P.
Tell me what you want.
B.O.P.
Tell me what you want.
B.O.P.
Louder.
B.O.P. B.O.P. New government.
Sit down with them, we want BLP. Let's rebuild this economy. More jobs and opportunity. Them ain't doing nothing for me. We want party.